Now, when a wrestler departs from WWE, sometimes they can fall on hard times financially. Without the continuous healthy income coming in from their WWE contract, they can be forced to earn money in any way they can. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 wrestlers who sadly went broke. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Lex Luger. Lex Luger at one stage looked to be the WWE's next Hulk Hogan. Obviously this never happened, but Luger had a decent WWE career followed by a decent WCW run which saw him win the WCW World title from the aforementioned Hogan. In the early 2000s, Luger's life was sent downhill following the tragic passing of wrestling legend Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth and Luger were living together at the time of her passing, and Luger became a suspect in the case. Luger had to spend virtually his entire fortune in an attempt to clear his name, and the heavy costs of the legal battle resulted in Luger becoming broke. Liz's passing was ultimately ruled to be an accident, and Luger's name was eventually cleared. Number 9. The Dynamite Kid. Often cited to be one of the most influential wrestlers of all time, the Dynamite Kid inspired wrestlers such as Chris Benoit and Daniel Bryan to wrestle a stiff style of wrestling that made the action look as legitimate as possible. Sadly, Dynamite, whose real name was Thomas Billington, had a ton of injuries by the end of his career. One of these injuries was a serious back and neck injury which had surfaced from decades of Billington performing the diving headbutt, a move which both Benoit and Bryan emulated throughout their careers. In 1997, Billington lost control of his legs and he would be confined to a wheelchair. Then in 2013, he suffered a serious stroke and was moved into full-time care in the UK. By the time Billington sadly passed away in 2018, he'd spent his riches on healthcare, so much so that his family had to ask fans to help pay for his care costs towards the end of his life. Number 8. Joey Mercury. Following Joey Mercury's release from WWE in 2007, the former tag team champion fell on hard times. Mercury had used his WWE paycheck to fuel an unhealthy lifestyle, and without his WWE income, Mercury was in huge financial trouble. Mercury was losing all of his money and was struggling to get booked anywhere due to his reputation and the health concerns surrounding him at the time. This was when CM Punk stepped in and purchased Mercury's house. Mercury amazingly then managed to beat his demons and then became a WWE producer and was even a key part in putting together the matches of The Shield between 2012 and 2014. Number 7. Luna Vachon. Luna Vachon was one of the most important female figures in the history of pro wrestling, so much so that she was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2019. Sadly, in 2009, Luna's house burnt down and this destroyed all of her possessions and left her in financial ruins as a result. Wrestling icon Mick Foley stepped in to help and he attempted to raise money for Luna and even offered Luna a non-wrestling role in TNA. Sadly, just 1 year after the fire, Luna passed away from an overdose at the tender age of 48. Number 6. Virgil. And most fans know about Virgil's financial problems thanks to mainly the infamous Lonely Virgil memes which have surfaced online in recent years. Virgil, following his WWE and WCW career, struggled to obtain any major independent appearances. Although he had a brief appearance in WWE in 2010 and AEW in 2019, this never led to anything substantial for the former $1 Million champion. Virgil has notably fallen into financial hardship over the past 10 years, so much so that he's often seen virtually begging fans to buy an autograph at conventions. Virgil will set up a table and attempt to sell an autograph virtually anywhere in the US. There have even been reports that Virgil has appeared at flea markets, subway stations, and even parking lots in an attempt to try and earn some much needed cash. Number 5. X-Pac. Former DX and NWO member X-Pac currently appears to be in a good place both mentally and physically, but sadly it wasn't always this way for the WWE Hall of Famer. X-Pac struggled with substance abuse issues following his WWE departure, and a costly divorce certainly didn't help things. Things were so bad for him that he had to file for bankruptcy and get help from close friends to try and stay afloat. Luckily, X-Pac managed to turn his life around. He now hosts a podcast titled Pro Wrestling for Life, and he's made a number of appearances on WWE television in recent years as part of both DX and the NWO. Number 4. Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts' trouble with alcohol and drug issue has been well documented over the years. This unfortunately meant that Roberts fell on hard times financially, and his mass fortune from his wrestling career was spent on fueling his negative addiction. Thanks to content from Beyond the Mat released back in 1999, fans know firsthand just how much Jake struggled with his demons. But thankfully, with the help of DDP, Jake managed to turn his life around. Jake is now sober and even has a role in AEW where he manages Lance Archer. Jake is truly one of the most gifted talents of all time, and it's truly wonderful to see him back in the wrestling world once again. Number 3. Scott Hall. Now, the 1990s saw the rise and fall of one Scott Hall. Hall portrayed the Razor Ramon character in WWE, and he was one of the most popular stars on the entire roster. In '96, Razor decided to join WCW and would form the NWO, a stable which became one of the most influential stables in pro wrestling history. Unfortunately, Hall struggled with alcoholism, so much so that at one stage he was working in WCW simply so he could pay for his incredibly damaging habit. This seriously impacted both Hall's health as well as his finances. It took a long time for Hall to accept the help he needed so badly. Similarly to Jake Roberts, Hall thankfully accepted help from DDP in getting clean and sober. Since then, Hall has been doing much better, and WWE are even happy to bring Hall to TV for sporadic appearances. Number 2. Ric Flair. Ric Flair often states that he's a Rolex-wearing, diamond ring-wearing, kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing, limousine-riding, jet-flying son of a gun. However, this is just part of Flair's gimmick, as Flair has had increasing financial problems over the past few decades. Flair has had problems with the IRS, as well as owing so much debt that he almost faced jail time. Flair filed for bankruptcy in 2008, and the debts didn't stop there, as he had to pay for lawyers for a number of court cases and pay alimony to 3 different women. Flair's money issues ultimately led him to joining TNA in 2010. He had retired from wrestling in 2008 following WrestleMania 24, but the money that TNA were offering Flair was simply too good for him to turn down. And number 1. Batista. When Batista decided to leave the WWE in 2010 to pursue acting, he took a huge risk. Batista was one of the WWE's top stars, and he was leaving behind a deal which made him one of the highest paid stars in the company. According to Batista, for the first few years following his WWE departure, he was completely broke. During an interview with IGN, Batista revealed, "I barely worked in 3 years, so I'd really left wrestling behind and could have gone back with my tail between my legs. But I still would have been just stuck in a place that I never would have gone any further, but I just took a chance. And then when I got cast, not only because I was broke, everything changed. When I say broke, my house was foreclosed. I had nothing, man. I sold all my stuff. I sold everything that I made from when I was wrestling. I had issues with the IRS. I was just lost in everything." Batista added that when he was cast in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, this was when his fortunes turned around. The former champion stated, "When Guardians came out and people saw me as Drax, it just started opening doors. So Drax didn't just change my career, it literally changed the trajectory of my life. My life just got better and I just became more successful. And that's when things really just started to seem surreal. It wasn't many years earlier when I was just borrowing money to pay for food, pay for rent, borrow money to buy my kids Christmas presents." Fast forward to 2021, and Batista is one of the most successful stars in Hollywood, appearing in the Marvel movies as well as appearing in movies such as James Bond and the critically acclaimed Dune. But there you have it, folks, 10 wrestlers who sadly went broke. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.